will be coming. Recording in progress. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Bhastaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swamiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pachaline Nivasisha Shunyavhadi Pashtatala Satarine Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Now, I didn't get as much time as I normally put aside for doing some preparation for today's reading. So, anyway, let's see how it goes. We're on, continuing with chapter 5. We made a start with chapter 5 yesterday, and we covered texts 1 to 4. So, we'll be kicking off on text 5 today. And let's just share with you the Bhagavad Gita as per usual. Oh, it's not. Oh, excuse me. I have to. Give me 1 minute. I've got to press some buttons here to get Bhagavad Gita up on my screen. Click, click. Anyone, while I'm just getting the Bhagavad Gita up, let's see if anyone has any reflections on yesterday's reading. Bit of a test for you here. What did you take away with you, or what was it that you can remember from the discussion? What points did we cover? It was yesterday, so it wasn't so far back. Although, no doubt in your lives, a lot has happened since then. So easy to get distracted. Anyone can, you can look in Bhagavad Gita if you like. Let me share the screen as I promised. 1 second, and then I can let you. Okay. 1 moment. Okay. Oh, no. Oh. New share. Excuse me. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Okay, so just have a look at the verses there, if you have Bhagavad Gita with you, and let's have a couple of reminders of what we touched on yesterday.
Well, yesterday we thought Sankhya Yoga Pruthak Bala. Pruthak Bala. Bala means a child, little. People who go for the Sankhya Yoga, they are quite young in the yoga.
Really?
Padantida Pandita. The Panditas don't just stop there. They want to go further.
Okay, interesting. You brought that out. I don't think we identified that yesterday, but still, it's interesting you brought that. So again, Bala Sankhya. So you're reading from one of the verses, yeah?
Number 4, what we discussed yesterday.
Okay, Sankhya Yoga, Pitak Bala. Okay, let's have a look at that.
Bala is a child, a little child.
Oh, yeah. But here the context is less intelligent, but interesting. Yeah, interesting the way you understood it. Yeah, you could give it that interpretation as well. You could give your own purport on that, Maharaj Kishore. Bala here means a young child. But here it's translated as less intelligent. Yeah.
So Prabhupada knows best. So
Prabhupada said?
Prabhupada knows best.
Yeah, Prabhupada knows
how
best.
to put it in a way to let the person
for our understanding. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So anything else? What was I mean, I'm asking also for myself as well, because I'm trying to recall as well the conversation we had yesterday. It's amazing, isn't it, how much we may forget. I'm scrolling back to have a look myself. Yeah. What we do, let's just read the translation to the verses. I can do that. Let me just read the translation to the verses. Arjuna said, yeah, that was it. First of all, you asked me to renounce work, and then again you recommend work with devotion. Now will you kindly tell me definitely which of the two is more beneficial? Yes, so we brought that up, that Arjuna is become perplexed at Krishna's seemingly equivocal instructions. He seems to be saying both things. He seems to be proposing Arjuna renounce, meaning leave the battlefield, but also he seems to be encouraging him to do his duty and work. So Arjuna is asking for clarification. Which of the two is more beneficial? All right. So, and then 2, the personality of Godhead replied, the renunciation of work and work in devotion are actually both good for liberation. But which one do you say is the best? But of the two?
Work in devotion.
Work in devotion. Yeah. It's the safe path. It's a path where, if one artificially adopts renunciation and the heart has not been purified, it could be very troublesome. So better to engage in one's natural occupation, but do that in Nishkam Karma Yoga. Do it as an offering to Krishna and be detached from the results. And then we mentioned these verses, then Prabhupada quoted these verses here from Bhagavatam, pointing out the dangers of sense gratification. It leads to material bondage. So people are mad after sense gratification. Yeah, then we spoke about engaging things of the world in Krishna's service rather than renouncing the world. And that's the superior form of renunciation, isn't it? Remember we had that discussion? Is yukta vairagya.
Yeah.
Linking. Yeah. And that's more serviceable and more practicable for a wider range of people. It's when we spoke a little bit about the Goswamis, who themselves live very simply. So we shouldn't take advantage of this philosophy and so-called live in material opulence in the name of engaging material things in Krishna's service. We have to, I think I mentioned, generally it's instructed in Bhagavatam that those who are aiming to go back to Godhead, then they should simplify their life as much as possible. You mentioned that. That may not always be simple in this very complicated world, but we should try. And then text 3. One who neither hates nor desires the fruits of action is known to be always renounced. Such a person, free from all dualities, easily overcomes material bondage and is completely liberated, almighty armed Arjuna. And the purple is very, you could say, as all of Prabhupada's purple, but this purple specifically is a very Krishna conscious purple. Yeah, everything
Prabhu,
for Krishna. Devotee, yeah,
Prabhu,
everything. Yes, mother, yes.
I before the earlier point, I just wanted to clarify
Please.
something.
Yes.
You said about simple living. So we are speaking there a little bit of austerity. Like we are covering the basics. We only need to cover the basic. Is it correct?
Cover the basics, meaning just explain a bit more.
Basic needs. It's not that.
Yeah,
okay,
the basic needs. Yeah. Basic needs to keep body and soul together.
Together, yeah.
Of course, it has to be done according to some.
Actually, basic needs differ for people to people. Like my basic may not be somebody else's basic.
Very good point. Very good point. I think that's mentioned also in the Isha Upanishad. So according to one specific need or one specific karma, what may be simple for one person may not be simple for another. And again, it could be a whole discussion. Depends on the particular mode of life that one is living and a particular occupation that they have. It may be Krishna conscious for them to live in an opulent way because that's their work, for instance. But the overall, as much as possible, devotees try to live honest, simple lives so their mind is not too disturbed and they can think of Krishna. Yeah. So a devotee, a Krishna conscious person, is naturally detached, naturally renounced. Yeah. He neither hates work, nor is he adverse from work. Yeah, because he works for Krishna. So he neither hates nor is he adverse. Yeah. So this is just a summary of yesterday. And text 4. We read this verse yesterday as well, wasn't it? Yeah. Only the ignorant speak of devotional service, karma yoga, as being different from analytical study of the material world, Shankya. Those who are actually learned say that he who applies himself well to one of these paths achieves the results of both. And today's verse we're beginning will explain this a bit more. And I managed to, at least I had time to read the purport. So we didn't speak much on this because we read it at the end, but the next verse is more or less saying the same thing with a more explanation from Prabhupada. Let me just check in the chat. There's a note there. Hare Krishna, everyone, from Payal. Hare Krishna, Mama. Welcome. Haribo. Okay, so let's have someone read text 5. Did I press the record button? I did. Yes. Hare Krishna. There's a hand there. Payal, please, yeah. Go ahead, read, Mother Payal. Text 5.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Yat sankheya prapatsthanam tad yoger api gyamate ekam sankyam cha yogam cha ya pasyati sapasyati. Translation. One who knows that the position reached by means of analytical study can also be attained by devotional service, and who therefore sees analytical study and devotional service to be on the same level, sees things as they are. Purport. The real purpose of philosophical research is to find the ultimate goal of life. Since the ultimate goal of life is self-realization, there is no difference between the conclusions reached by the two processes. By Sankhya philosophical research, one comes to the conclusion that a living entity is not a part and parcel of the material world, but of the Supreme Spirit whole. Consequently, the spirit soul has nothing to do with the material world. His actions must be in some relation with the Supreme. When he acts in Krishna consciousness, he is actually in his constitutional position. In the first process, Sankhya, one has to become detached from matter. And in the devotional yoga process, one has to attach himself to the work of Krishna consciousness. Factually, both processes are the same, although superficially, one process appears to involve detachment and the other process appears to involve attachment. Detachment from matter and attachment to Krishna are one and the same. One who can see, sees things as they are. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you. Okay. Any particular curiosities or questions here?
We are confirming the Yukta Vairagya, isn't it, Prabhu?
Confirming, yeah, this principle of
The Yukta Vairagya.
of engaging in a positive way, you could say, with the material world. Yeah. It's yes, very good. It's like we just see our presentation of Krishna consciousness, especially to, you could say, people who are just coming to or being exposed to Krishna consciousness. We don't so much tell them, at least in the initial stages, what not to do. Like we don't, because, you know, Krishna consciousness involves the regulative principles. But generally, those who are coming to Krishna consciousness, we encourage them to take up some activity of bhakti. Yeah. Like I was speaking to a newcomer the other day in the temple room here, and I didn't tell him that Krishna consciousness, you have to stop, you have to follow these regulative principles. I just asked him how he's finding the chanting, is he reading, you know. I encourage him to stay for breakfast, you know, because by doing these things, by taking up the chanting, then naturally he will see the need and he himself will decide or feel a sense of renunciation to give up, say, we could say sinful activities if you want to yeah. You understand? So you see that in our presentation of Krishna consciousness, we focus on the positive, to be attached to Krishna, understanding that if they chant the holy name, if they associate with the devotees of Krishna, they hear Krishna Katha, then they will naturally, hopefully, practice these virtues in life, like give up meat eating, etc. Now, for some, they may be quite attached to these things, so it may need a little bit of preaching as well, in order to encourage them. We have to, again, see case by case. But anyway, from our point of view, we're focused on Krishna, hearing about Krishna. And then naturally, one's going to be like someone practicing Shankya. So Shankya is the other path. It's where one is not engaged in bhakti, but one studies the nature of the material world in order to be detached from material principles. Yeah? So that can help, and it's there in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Anyone can tell us which canto in Srimad Bhagavatam is Shankar Yoga explained?
Kapil Dev's.
Yeah, third canto. Third canto, it's given in quite detail. There's Prabhupada, I think he will mention here at some point as well. There is an atheistic Shankya, and there's a devotional Shankya. Yeah, so we are engaged in a process of attachment, and naturally you'll be detached. You follow?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, excuse me for giving myself as an example, but I remember when I first was coming to Krishna consciousness, I couldn't get my head around the regulative principles, especially the background one comes from in the West. But I became attached to reading the books, and I became attached to associating with devotees. And naturally, these other things fell away, at least grossly. Naturally, these other things fell away, and the path became open because I took up chanting. Yeah? Where before, having to navigate that type of lifestyle without the practice of bhakti, then I couldn't conceive it. Yeah, so I became, to some degree, attached to Krishna, and automatically detached from my worldly friends. Yeah, from my, could say, materialistic associates. Yeah.
Prabhu,
Please, yes.
can I say something? Yeah.
Yes,
So
please.
what about those people like who doesn't want to, who are very attached to their material things and doesn't want to do Krishna bhakti? How to get them into Krishna bhakti?
Well, you
even
might
they
go on.
even
Yeah.
One person, when I say that okay, you have to stop meat eating, or you have to do offering food before you eat. But but they understand that sometimes they said, okay, that's fine, I understand we have to do it, but I'm so attached, and they started giving excuse. Doctors told me that I have to eat. But even there are vegetarian food that there are lots of health, I know that, but still they are not willing to do it, and also not willing to read Krishna books, also not willing to do devotional services. How to get them into Krishna consciousness?
Well, sounds like you're quite determined to get particular people in Krishna consciousness. That's
My
very
mom.
good.
My
Your
mom
mother.
is so
Okay.
yeah, my all the people say they're my age is not for bhakti, my relatives
Okay.
said, but my my mom's age is for bhakti, but she's not doing it. So
Okay.
I
So
don't know why.
yeah, there's one answer I could give, and I've been explaining that point. Perhaps can anyone perhaps help? Can anyone like to offer an answer to this question from Payal, isn't it? From Payal?
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah,
Chandravali.
Payal, I kind of have that kind of problem. I mean, now my mother doesn't eat meat. I mean, my family doesn't eat meat or anything like that. But because we got into Krishna consciousness, they found it very difficult because we gave up going to partying, mixing with all, going to weddings and things like that. So she finds it. But now, after many years, she likes it. She likes the way we do things, our nature. She'll always say, I mean, you're doing it like that. It's really good. So
Yeah,
you won't be able to completely change them. But what I do is I do take prasad whenever I'm going, like Ma prasad, I kind of freeze it. Whenever I go to see her, I will take some sweets for her, which she likes munching, like that. Just you can't completely change them. But
yeah,
you can just simply do things.
yeah. You see the point that
Occasionally.
that Mother Pal, that Mother Chandravali's mentioning here was the point that I was going to bring up. Again, it's the same as what we just explained. Don't try and force them. Don't try and put
Yeah.
these things on them, but instead engage them in activities of bhakti. Just give them prashadam, invite them for kirtan at the temple, etc., etc. Invite them to a program, because especially family members, sometimes they can be the hardest to, as they said traditionally, to preach to. Especially the mother is the one who's been teaching you, and now you're all of a sudden telling her how to live. So she might, So here, just it's the same principle as I was explaining. Mother Chandravali has brought it out in a practical way, how she didn't get on the case of relatives for doing this and doing that. Instead, she just connected them to Krishna, and now they're more acceptable, they're more favorable. So, in essence, that's the answer, or one answer you could give is don't try and you could say don't try and force them, don't try and especially the principles that we follow, especially if it's because it could have the opposite effect. They could distance them away from bhakti, because they may become adverse to you're not saying constant, but to your preaching to them. So that could happen.
Something
Sorry, carry on. Yes.
I was going to say, it came up
Yes.
just like that. Jagannath, we always call like Jagannath Prasadam. When it comes to Prasadam, we say Jagannath. I said Jagannath Prasadam and Nitai Gaura's Harinam can bring anybody to Krishna easily without making them to put.
So
I don't know, it came like
we have a secret weapon, Jagannath Prasadam. So did that help Mother Payal, that answer to that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yes, we have to set an exam.
Payal, also what you could do on auspicious days, you tell them like the day before, this is what I do to my mother. Tomorrow is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's appearance. You know who Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is? Krishna. Like I've spoken to her. So maybe you could make some halwa and offer it to your Balgopal. Or I just try and get her into that consciousness.
Yeah,
and then set an example, like a proper devotee.
Sorry, Mother Payal, carry on. Yes, continue.
Yeah, I'm saying we have to. The thing is, like, we have to set an example of a proper devotee by, showing them how a devotee should be.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was coming to the same point. What just Payal Mata
mentioned
is that you do not expect too much and just follow your devotional service leads.
Yeah.
They will learn automatically observing you.
Yeah.
You don't have to expect that whether they are learning or not. You should not monitor whether they are doing it or not.
Example is better than precept.
Focus. Yeah. You focus on yourself, and things will roll out to other people automatically. That is something Krishna will take care of. You don't have
Yeah.
to worry about it. You can't change that. Only Krishna can change.
Also, you could also, having said that, having reached that conclusion, we can always be ready to explain if they ask, for example, about vegetarianism.
Yeah,
We're always ready to explain.
exactly. So if they
But
ask you about something, it is right to explain. But to sit on their head, taking classes and explaining, if they are not liking it, they appreciate it, you continue. But otherwise, don't struggle too much to bring them in
okay,
the
thank
path.
you,
You
Dalit.
rather focus on yourself.
Prabhu, I
So,
just would like to share something, Prabhu, which
Nidai
I
Mata,
always
yes, please.
tell. I always say to everybody, and I think by the mercy of the Lord, it has worked very well with many. I always say on Ekadashis, I said, okay, you carry on other days. Ekadashi is good. Ekadashi is a day. It's very dear to the Lord. Just fast. Fast means don't eat grains, eat anything else. And I send them the recipe and this. This will be good for your health as well. It will improve. Body doesn't. So, and there are people who had, because of Ekadashi fasting, they have lost eating meat. Following Ekadashi is a very good weapon, I personally see, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, thank you. So I think you got some quite good answers there, Mother Hayal. Based on
Yes,
this,
Hare Krishna, everyone. Yeah.
Hare Krishna. Based on this purport, so you can think about that, digest it, and kind of realign your preaching strategy, so to speak. All right. Anybody else, please? Yes, I can see Mother Katarina. Yes.
Yes, I must.
Yeah, I can see that. You said, yeah, it's I think this is an English proverb. I don't know if it's English, but whatever it is, it's well known. You can bring a horse to water, she mentions, to the stream, but you can't make the horse drink. That's a well-known saying. You can bring a horse to water, but you can't. Also, so keep that in mind. Also, yes, she mentions the strategy Prabhupada used was kirtan and prashadam. Yeah. Okay, very good. Hare Krishna.
Yeah. Prabhu, also, I think that at the end, that Krishna is more eager to get us back. So we can only try, but ultimately, Krishna can do. I mean, only Krishna can do it. Like,
Yeah.
without Radha Krishna's mercy, nobody can.
Yeah.
Achieve that thing.
Yeah. So we have the underlying
maybe in this birth or
faith.
the birth.
Yeah, we have underlying faith in Krishna as our protector as well. So he can make mystical things happen. Even the most staunchest atheist can become a great devotee, yeah, by the mercy of the Lord. Yes. All right. Let's edge on to text 6. This is a bit more of a lengthy purport. Anything else, though? Yeah. Anyone like to read? Or quick.
I know.
Okay. Okay, I'll read. I shall jump in and read. Sanyastu mahabaho dukam aptum ayayogataha yoga yukto mani brahma na chirena digachati. So, translation reads as follows. Merely renouncing all activities, yet not engaging in the devotional service of the Lord, cannot make one happy. But a thoughtful person engaged in devotional service can achieve the supreme without delay. So again, this verse is glorifying the positive, engaging in bhakti. Okay, purple. There are 2 classes of sannyasis, or persons in the renounced order of life. The Mayavadi sannyasis are engaged in the study of Sankhya philosophy, whereas the Vaishnava sannyasis are engaged in the study of Bhagavatam philosophy, which affords the proper commentary on the Vedanta Sutras. The Mayavadi sannyasis also study the Vedanta Sutras, but use their own commentary called Sariraka Bhashya, written by Shankaracharya. The students of the Bhagavad school are engaged in the devotional service of the Lord according to the Pancharatriki regulations, and therefore the Vaishnava sannyasis have multiple engagements in the transcendental service of the Lord. The Vaishnava sannyasis have nothing to do with material activities, and yet they perform various activities in their devotional service to the Lord. But the Mayavadi sannyasis engage in the studies of Sankhya and Vedanta and speculation, cannot relish the transcendental service of the Lord. Because their studies become very tedious, they sometimes become tired of Brahman speculation, and thus they take shelter of the Bhagavatam without proper understanding. Consequently, their study of the Srimad Bhagavatam becomes troublesome. Dry speculations and impersonal interpretations by artificial means are all useless for the Mayavadi sannyasis. The Vaishnava sannyasis who are engaged in devotional service are happy in the discharge of their transcendental duties, and they have the guarantee of ultimate entrance into the kingdom of God. The Mayavadi sannyasis sometimes fall down from the path of self-realization and again enter into material activities of a philanthropic and altruistic nature, which are nothing but mental engagements. Therefore, the conclusion is that those who are engaged in Krishna consciousness are better situated than the sannyasis engaged in simple speculation about what is Brahman and what is not Brahman, although they too come to Krishna consciousness after many births. Okay, so some interesting points here. Everyone knows what Sankhya philosophy is. Anyone does not know here what is Sankhya philosophy? Okay, I guess quiet means that everyone's got some idea what
No,
it is.
I don't.
Sorry? Okay, in
Prabhu, I
case
don't.
no, Sankhya, it's the analytical observation and study of the world to the degree that one studies the elements and the senses and understands the role of the soul. Yeah, it studies the body. Within the body, there is knowledge acquiring senses, etc. And it analyzes into 24 elements like that. And the idea it does, and it produces a sense of detachment through analytical study. So Sankhya means to count. So that's what it is basically. Yeah, you study the constituents of the world and how it's made up. Yeah. Reload the books, having a problem here. So that's Sankhya.
Okay. Prabhu, I have one.
Please, yes.
I have one question further to that one.
Yes.
Am I audible?
Just about. We can hear you, yeah. Now you're not audible. Your voice is coming in and coming out. Now you're muted. You have to unmute. If not, Dhananjay, try put it in the chat if the audio is not in our favor. There's some lag. Yeah, there's some lag in what. All right, let's continue until perhaps Dhananjay can get back to us. Yeah. So, yeah, any other questions or comments here? Everyone's familiar with the word of Mayavadi, I'm sure. If you've read Prabhupada's books, then you should have come across it many, many times. They are known as impersonalists or Mayavadi. They have, for them, everything is supposedly one, and that's their perfection to realize the oneness of everything. So they renounce all activity, all unnecessary what they see as engagement with the material world in any shape or form. Thus, the classic Mayavadi will be a sannyasi only. Yep. And they will renounce family, they will renounce any activities apart from study of Vedanta and discussions on Brahman. Yeah. And the Prabhupada mentions it can get quite dry. Yeah. It gets quite dry. And I think not mentioned this form, but somewhere else we mentioned how Shankaracharya, he is a well-known philosopher who had a widespread philosophy of Mayavadi based on the Vedanta Sutra. But there's one quote from him, you've heard him probably say it before, Bhaja Govinda, Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govinda, Muda Mate. So apparently this was a comment he made on seeing some elderly sannyasis who are coming near the end of their life. And they're studying grammar, Sanskrit grammar. So Shankaracharya was famously said, you fools, your life is coming to an end and you're studying grammar? You should Bhaja Govinda, chant the names of Govinda. Yeah. So that's so they have their own commentary. Yeah, but anyway, everyone can tell us what Prancharattraki is. Some devotees with us might know that. So instead of that, the Vaishnava sannyasis, they're very much active. Yeah. Because they follow what's called Prancharattraki regulations. Anyone could give us a little insight into what that. Sorry?
I was thinking how just reading that paragraph, it's how boring their practice is, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, Brahman, that's it, you know. Whereas we are like Vaishnava sannyasis, they're serving the Supreme Person, like it's a person, and
Yeah,
how
that's
much, you know, it's like serving a person.
Yeah, and everything that goes with it, and there's a personal interaction. So Chandravali's hinted on the meaning of Prancharattraki, which it gives the regulations and descriptions for anyone coming from any background to actually worship the Lord. Yeah, can become purified through diksha, through the process of initiation, and get Prancharattraki mantras, and they engage in worship of the Lord. Yeah, very active. And it's a reciprocal relationship. According to the purity of practice, then they will feel Krishna's presence. So, yeah, Mother Chandravali is mentioning the lifestyle of a Vaishnava sannyasi or a devotee compared to a follower of Mayavad. Yeah, just like the other day, when was that? Yesterday, we had a wonderful kirtan in the temple. Anyone was there for that? One devotee. For me, it seemed like he come from the higher planets. And he appeared in the temple. He had an accordion and he was leading such a wonderful kirtan. It was like...
Oh, in the Guru Puja was...
Yeah, Guru Puja kirtan. And it was...
Wow.
It was like all kind of everything, all the paranoias, all the fears, all the apprehensions and criticisms, all just folded away and everyone was in bliss, you know? Yeah,
it went
was
on.
there. Yeah, so that's not, that type of thing is not done by these Mayavad sannyasis. And as we know, they criticized Lord Chaitanya. They couldn't relate to him because he was Nitai Priya Prabhu is his name, who led that kirtan. So there's a pastime which we're reading at the moment in our Saturday and Sunday classes in our temple, where Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was criticized by the Mayavad sannyasis for getting too emotional. You know, he was engaging kirtan and dancing, so they couldn't understand why is the sannyasi doing such a thing. So yeah, so merely renouncing all activities yet not engaging devotional service. Krishna's quite clear here, isn't it? Cannot make one happy. Well, someone who's a bit more thoughtful, a bit more intelligent, a bit more wise, if they engage in activities of bhakti, they can achieve the supreme. It even says, without delay. Yeah? Because in the end of the purport, Prabhupada gives some charity to these sannyasis. He says, although they too may come to Krishna consciousness after many births. Yeah. Bahunam janamanan ante ganamam papajute. That's a verse that's mentioned as well. But only by the association of a bhakta. So they may come if they're more an impersonalist rather than a mayavadi, and they haven't blasphemed Krishna or blasphemed Krishna's devotees. Then they may be blessed with devotion. Yes. And
I was thinking,
please, yes.
Sorry, you
Carry
carry
on.
on.
No, you.
I was
you
also
first.
thinking from Shastras, like when you take one step towards Krishna, Krishna takes so many steps. It's so
Yes.
personal.
Yes,
Also,
yes.
if you see Krishna in your life, Krishna is present in your life, doing things for you, then you want to do more for Krishna, and he wants to do more for you, and you want to do more. There's a relationship going on,
Yeah,
Whereas
very
for
good.
them, it's boring. For them, it's
Yeah.
like Brahman realization,
Yeah. For them, there's only themselves. But in the practice of bhakti, as Krishna says also, bhakta mamajananti avanyaschasmi tatvata. No, wrong verse. Anantaschintayanto mam ye janapaya pasate te sam nityapayuktamam yogik sheme vahamayaham. For those who worship me with exclusive devotion, meditate upon my transcendental form. For them, I carry what they lack and I preserve what they have. So we're not just on our own. Krishna's there. And he's, as Mother Chandravali correctly said, it's mentioned as well. Prabhupada says that you make one step towards Krishna. So Krishna takes 10 steps towards you. So it's dynamic. There's a dynamic exchange between the bhakta and the Supreme Lord. Yeah.
So it is can we say Lord Kapiladev's Sankhya philosophy is versus this. You can really compare them.
Well, so remember the Sankhya philosophy of our Kapila, mentioned in the Srimad Bhagavatam, is a devotional presentation of Sankhya. Yeah. Now, having said all of this, definitely the study of Sankhya, as in presented in the Bhagavatam, it can help us get a footing to become more steady in our practice of bhakti. Yeah, it can give a sense of detachment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
it's
to Devahuti, that is exact teachings. Yeah.
Yeah. So we don't reject the system of Sankhya, but we have the addition of the practice of the positive, not just trying. Yeah. But the study of Sankhya, I mean, you will find, if you do happen to read the third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam and you read this study of Sankhya, you find it's almost mystical, even though you might not be able to comprehend and understand all the details. Just by endeavoring to understand as much as you can the difference between the body and the soul and the senses, it will give you a sense of detachment from the world. Yeah, it will give you a sense of detachment from the world, and so for some, it might be quite inspiring in their practice of bhakti. Yeah, it might help. So we don't reject it, but primarily our engagement is of the positive. Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu. Hearing and chanting about Krishna, praying, serving his deity form, visiting the temple, etc. Okay. Anything else on this from anyone else? On any other point we can bring out here? It's hard to imagine how, I guess they do, how undevotional commentaries on the Bhagavad Gita can give any other explanation other than bhakti. but they do through their word jugglery. Like here, it's quite obvious. a thoughtful person engaged in devotional service. Of course, they will translate the Sanskrit in a different way. You know, how they would kind of twist this one, I'm not quite sure. It's quite directly explaining about devotional service. Let's see the word for word. Sannyas mahabaho dukkam aptam ayogata. So Prabhupada translates it without devotional service. But they will probably translate that in a different way. Yeah. Okay, you have to do some muting here. Hare Krishna. Okay, done that. Hare Krishna. Okay, everyone is still out there? Say yes. Say Hare Krishna, someone.
Yes.
Jai.
Krishna.
Hare
Yes.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Okay, I'm just checking. Everyone's still with us. One of the things when you're speaking through a computer, you never know. Okay, anything else from anyone else on this? Any questions, any words here we don't understand? Or something's not clear? I hope we've helped to make it a little bit clearer. All right. Time check. 46:47. So let's do text 7. So let's have someone reading text 7. It's a relatively short purport. Again,
Shall
on
I
the same thing. Yes, go ahead, Maharaj Kishore.
Yoga yukto vishuddhatma vijitatma jitendriya sarva bhutatma bhutatma kurvannapi na lipyate. Translation: one who works in devotion, who is pure soul, and who controls his mind and senses is dear to everyone, and everyone is dear to him. Though always working, such a man is never entangled. Purport: one who is on the path of liberation by Krishna consciousness is very dear to every living being, and every living being is dear to him. This is due to his Krishna consciousness. Such a person cannot think of any living being as separate from Krishna, just as the leaves and the branches of the tree are not separate from the tree. He knows very well that by pouring water on the root of the tree, the water will be distributed to all the leaves and branches, or by supplying food to the stomach, the energy is automatically distributed throughout the body. Because one who works in Krishna consciousness is servant to all, he is very dear to everyone. And because everyone is satisfied by his work, he is pure in consciousness. Because he is pure in consciousness, his mind is completely controlled. And because his mind is controlled, his senses are also controlled. Because his mind is always fixed on Krishna, there is no chance of his being deviated from Krishna. Nor is there a chance that he will engage in his senses in matters other than the service of the Lord. He does not like to hear anything except topics relating to Krishna. He does not like to eat anything which is not offered to Krishna, and he does not wish to go anywhere if Krishna is not involved. Therefore, his senses are controlled. A man of controlled senses cannot be offensive to anyone. One may ask, why then was Arjun offensive in the battle to others? Wasn't he in Krishna consciousness? Arjun was only superficially offensive because, as has already been explained in the second chapter, all the assembled persons on the battlefield would continue to live individually. As the soul cannot be slain, so spiritually, no one was killed in the battlefield of Kurukshetra. Only their dresses were changed by the order of Krishna, who was personally present. Therefore, Arjun, while fighting in the battlefield of Kurukshetra, was not really fighting at all. He was simply carrying out the orders of Krishna in full Krishna consciousness. Such a person is never entangled in the reactions of work. Thank you.
Thank you. Hopefully this sounds very attractive. This is the results of engaging in bhakti. Yeah, one becomes purified, and one becomes, if one becomes purified, one becomes a pure soul. And what's a pure soul? Well, someone who doesn't become, described it, never becomes entangled in the meshes of the dualities of this world. Yeah. Let's read the verse again. It's so nice. One who works in devotion, who's a pure soul, who controls his mind and senses, is dear to everyone, and everyone is dear to him. So always working, such a man is never entangled. Yeah. So devotee, also there's some endeavor is there, but you say devotees naturally naturally engage their senses in Krishna's service. Yeah. Anyway, any questions or comments here? A few tips are here, actually.
I was just
Yes,
looking at the
please.
translation.
Yeah.
Just the translation is making you feel so peaceful, so happy that we are in Krishna conscious, you know.
Yes, it's very reassuring, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, it's just really touches your heart too. It's just amazing.
Yeah.
Prabhu, here they are speaking about importance of prasadam.
Prasadam. You keep mentioning you got prasadam. You mentioned about Jagannath prasadam. Now you spotted the prasadam again here.
No, Prabhu, he's saying
Go on.
because we are prasaditarians, isn't it, Prabhu? We are not vegetarians.
It says here. It says that here.
Yeah, he does not like to hear anything. He doesn't to
Oh,
eat anything. It's not offered,
Yeah.
and doesn't want to go anywhere. So it's everything we are Krishna centered.
Yeah. Yeah, very nice. Yeah, thank you. And we can see that sometimes you see food stores, isn't it? There's one when I'm going to and from the temple, sometimes I have driving services for the temple. And there's one shop I go past. It's called Pure. Pure. The shop's called Pure.
Oh yes.
So even today, I mean, people hanker for a purity, isn't it? They hanker for purity in life. And I think a lot of people acknowledge that society at large, or individually also, as well as collectively, has lost purity, which they once had. So purity, isn't it? Even when they're selling products, often they sell them on the basis of them being pure. It is pure, especially in India. They always throw that out to try and sell things. It is pure. It is pure, unadulterated. Yeah. So it has an attractive, isn't it? It's attractive. But the real purity comes from being in one's constitutional position as a servant of Krishna. Then one is a pure soul. Because they're a pure soul, then they're leading a pure life. And there's other verses actually. There's in this chapter. There's another one of my favorite verses coming that describes that he's not disturbed by anyone, nor does he disturb anyone. Yeah. That same, I think, comes up in the 12th chapter. It comes up, which is called devotional service. And there it describes the qualities and symptoms of a devotee of Krishna. So they don't become entangled. So sometimes we do get entangled though, isn't it? Sure, we may get entangled, even though we're trying to practice bhakti. And from here, we can learn the reason why we may let our guard down and become entangled in some bitter exchange is because perhaps we're not in control of our mind and senses. So we become captured. We become entangled in the material, exchange, may do. Yeah, because perhaps we're not if we're in control of our mind and senses, then there's less chance that we'll become entangled. Yeah, sometimes I have to say personally, sometimes I can sense I've said something wrong or I've stepped outside the line of how I should behave and just become entangled. I think, I shouldn't have acted like that. I shouldn't have done like that. Now I've become entangled. And so, Hare Krishna. Any other questions or comments here?
Oh, is this connected with individuality?
Very much so. Can you expand a bit more?
It is because I was just thinking 2.2 in the second chapter. You were talking about, I think. Oh, 1 minute, Prabhu. Oh, sorry. Lord is saying that like we have to bring Krishna into our lives, and
Yes.
then so here also we are talking about the same thing. So then we are Krishna's eternal servants. Like
Yes.
here, I think 2.1 minute, Prabhu. Sorry, I'm checking. 2.12. Never was there a time when I
Natvam
did not,
nitadruna samnatvam nimajanadipa. Yes. Yeah. Go on. Just read the translation.
and
Carry
never
on.
was there a time when I did not exist.
Nor
No, you, no, all these kings, no, in the future shall any of us cease to be.
Yeah. So so what's the connection here?
Because we are talking, that's bringing Krishna, because if you read the full purport, I think it is saying
That we're individuals,
bringing
we
the
always
Krishna consciousness, yeah, we have to become servants. The same thing here we are saying, if we are bringing Krishna, we shouldn't do anything else except eating Krishna prasadam, hearing about Krishna, everything Krishna. So that's the way we bring Krishna into our life.
Yeah, and that's what we're doing. Prabhupada said it may not happen overnight. There may be some areas where we're not quite in line, but Prabhupada said we should mold our lives in such a way that we are following what Prabhupada is explaining here. He said, "What is it? We only go somewhere if what is it? Let's just read it again. We only go somewhere if Krishna's involved, isn't it? It says, was it here? Yeah, we only eat something if Krishna's involved. So, sometimes we may not be able to do that, but that's what we want to do. We only want to eat Krishna Prashadam. We only want to go to a party if it's a Krishna party, if Krishna's involved. We only want to do this or do that if Krishna's in the picture. Yeah, sometimes I think we spoke on this yesterday a little bit. Sometimes we may be obliged to engage in things that are not directly related to Krishna. But depending on how expert we are, we can bring Krishna into the picture. Yeah, our work, our recreation, whatever it may be. We should see how Krishna is included, not excluded. Yeah. Yeah, because that's material life, is to do whatever you do, don't bring God into the picture. That's the material life. For our philosophy, whatever you do, don't leave Krishna out of the picture. It's amazing how off track society's become, isn't it? Even there's discussions on philosophy, for instance, and sometimes it's agreed that, okay, we're going to discuss the meaning of life and philosophy, but let's all agree not to invoke the concept of God into this discussion. So what's the point of discussing anything if you're not even allowed to mention the possibility of God? Yeah, if we believe it or not, there is some people who atheists, Anyway, Hare Krishna. So it's 7 o'clock. A couple of verses there, but very nice, isn't it? Very inspiring. I hope we inspire what we hear, and we become attracted to trying to be a pure soul. And how to be a pure soul, Prabhupada gives in this purple. Right? So you can write these things down and see how you're coming up to the mark. And we should control our senses, Then we'll be less entangled in the bitterness of this world. Yeah.
Even you read 100 times. Even you read 100 times, I don't know how much goes into the head.
Well, that's quite good. If you could read 100 times, I'm sure something's going to go in.
No,
perhaps
even
you could try.
read 100 times. No,
Yeah,
I'm not saying.
well, perhaps you could try it and see what happens. Have a counter with you and read the purport loud 100 times. I'm sure you'll be quite enlivened.
I think just reading this now is really
Yeah.
made me so happy. It's just
Just like
I'm
discussing it, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm so
It just
happy
comes
to be.
alive.
Yeah, it
comes
makes
alive.
you.
Yeah.
And you know, Krishna cleans everything on your path. You know, like
Yeah.
me telling personal thing. Like I have gone through a really heavy thing, but Krishna clears up so much. Even relatives all along. I was saying, oh, when my mother's not here, I won't keep up with this one. I won't keep up with that one. I don't want to do this. I want to do that. But Krishna is not waiting for my mother to go. He's just done it all in one go. And it feels so nice to not to deal with kind of people. And Krishna just did it. Just overnight, he just did.
Krishna's the master of all mystics. You'll be amazed at how he gets involved in your life, actually. You'll be amazed.
So much less hassle to deal with these kind of people. You know?
Yes.
It's just amazing.
Okay. All right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for giving us an opportunity to read Bhagavad Gita. It's really livening for me as well. So see you next week, and we'll continue with text 8 and 9, which continues on the same subject slightly. Okay. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Jai.
Yes,
Hare
yes.
Krishna, Prabhu.
Can we start reading Chaitanya Charitamrita, Mr. Prabhu?
You can speak to Mother Chandravali about that.
Yeah,
Okay.
no, I'm just, I think my mother is there, so I'm just putting this seed.
Yeah. Putting this in. Okay. Hare.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhupada ki jai. I'm going to
Krishna.
press that red button called end meeting for all. Then we're all again going to disappear and be in our own little worlds. Hare Bol. Hare